Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Ubuntu On Air broadcast. This is our weekly community team Q&A, where some of us from the community team, today you've got Nicholas Skaggs and myself, we come on air and we take questions from you in the IRC channel. If you're on ubuntuonair.com, you will see just below this video, there's a little box for IRC, and you can log in there, and it will put you in the right channel where you can ask us questions. If you have your own IRC client and you're on Freenode, just hop on over to #ubuntu-on-air, and you can ask us questions there. Start them with the word question in all caps, and we'll get a nice highlight on it so that we don't miss it. And again, you can ask us questions about anything, questions about Ubuntu specifically and community stuff you'll get a better answer to, but we're open to any questions you might have about the project, the community, wider open source, anything at all. So, Nick, do we have any updates for this week?
The biggest update for this week is probably Global Jam, which is happening this weekend. I know that many of you have scheduled events or plan to attend an event. If you haven't, you're not too late to join the party. I think Michael will probably find a magical link for you real quick and paste it in there. But if you if you look on the Ubuntu wiki, you'll find a page for Ubuntu Global Jam, as well as if you go to the local teams page, you will find lots of events around the world. I believe there's, I don't know, more than I can count, which isn't much, I guess, but more than I can count events listed, which has been wonderful to see. So we're very excited about that. So again, if there's a local event, plan to attend it. If not, it's not too late to try and sneak something in. And that's all happening this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, and just to emphasize, it doesn't take much to start a global jam. If you don't have one in your area and you have a friend, you can just go hang out at a coffee shop somewhere and talk about Ubuntu or work on some bug fixes or documentation updates or anything like that. We've got a whole bunch of information on the wiki. It's wiki.ubuntu.com/global jam, I think. And we've detailed a lot of different things that you can do and how to set up and run a global jam. There was also a video going through this that was recorded earlier this week. If you go to the Ubuntu On Air channel on YouTube, you can go back and find that. And we had, I think, Daniel Holbach and either Alan Pope or David Planella. I'm not sure who all was on that, but they did a format very similar to this, where they took questions from people and they talked about different things you can do in a global jam.
Yes, and speaking of activities, Daniel requests that we specifically mention Snappy. Daniel is a very big proponent of Internet of Things taking over the world, so he wants to make sure that you guys know that you can jam with Snappy. Mostly, I'm excited about having the Raspberry Pi 2 come out this week with full Snappy support. So that actually gives me some hardware that I can buy and play with, and so that makes it a lot more real and a lot more exciting personally for me. So yeah, definitely check out the new Raspberry Pi.
I can't see anything.
All right, so let's get to some questions. I am Nicole asked me, since I live in the USA, actually Nick lives in the USA too, only about 100 miles north of me. Does that mean you won't be able to get one of the phones when they're released? Yes, unfortunately it does mean that I'm not going to be sporting a BQ phone. I have heard that they work as a phone and they'll work with up to 2G data here in the US on our unusual wireless frequencies, but that we won't be able to get 3G. And that's that would make it a bit of a downgrade for me, going from my Nexus 4 down to something that only gets 2G. So I'm holding out for something that can get at least 3G, hopefully 4G here in the US.
Right. Obviously, I would be in the same boat, and like Michael, I have a Nexus 4, which I'll be holding on to until other options are available. Yeah, I guess 4G, some sort of 4G. LTE isn't required, but some sort of quasi-high-speed, 1999 internet data speeds, please.
Yeah. We've all gotten a little bit spoiled on this now.
That's right. Call me spoiled.
Yes, we can't live like we did in 2002,
Right.
like barbarians. All right, Orhex asks an interesting question. Should bug number 1 be extended with Android? So for those who aren't familiar, bug number 1 is the first bug registered on the Launchpad bug tracker that Ubuntu uses. And it was closed, but it originally said that Microsoft had a monopoly on the desktop market. And that was kind of our a guiding bug, if you will, on why we were making Ubuntu and what we were targeting. And it was closed earlier last year, I think, or the year before. Specifically because devices had spread so far beyond desktops, and they spread where Microsoft didn't have a monopoly anymore. So Android came on the scene, and now there are probably more Android devices in the world than there are Windows devices. So it's an interesting question. Should we extend it for Android? Should that be our new guiding light as we develop Ubuntu phones and our whole convergence strategy? Nick, what are your thoughts on that?
It's interesting. When bug number 1 was originally filed, in much the same way the browser wars sort of kicked off in the late 90s, the desktop wars had sort of fizzled out, right? So there was basically Windows, and that was it. I don't know if we can say that in the phone world just yet. I don't know that we can say that all there is Android. There's technically quite a few other competing ecosystems out there, and you have at least Apple and iOS taking a dominant market position there as well, and then lots of other people falling behind, of which will be joining the ranks. So I don't know. I feel like there's still a lot of development and innovation and interesting things happening. So I don't know that anyone is a dominant player yet. That said, Android is presumably, by most people's standards, on top at the moment. But I don't know. The other differences for me are that Android itself is, at least the Android-based system, is open, whereas Windows was completely closed. So to the extent that bug number 1 does apply to Android, it's nice that it's an open system, or a more open system than it was last time.
Yeah, I would definitely say that, I mean, you could definitely count Android as a dominant player in the phone industry. They've got something like 80% of the market share now, I think. The difference that I see, and I think this is kind of the same as what you were saying, Nick, is that the phone market isn't as entrenched or stagnant as the desktop market was back in 2004. There is a lot of innovation still going on, and there's still actually quite a bit of competition going on with Android. And if you want to count the non-Google Android versions, like Amazon's Fire and Cyanogen, then they're even getting competition from within the wider Android ecosystem. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there for new players. Obviously, we're one of them. Firefox OS is one. Yola is one. So I don't think Android's quite made it to where we need to make it a guiding light to unseat them yet. It's an interesting question to put to the community, though. So those of you listening and on IRC, if you want to chime in on your thoughts on whether or not bug number 1 should be repurposed to talk about Android, go ahead and leave some comments in the IRC. All right.
Yeah, it's very intriguing.
Moving right along. Daniel has one for you, Nick.
Yes.
Do you have pics of those 111 trees?
I do not. As Daniel and the rest of the team got to find out, I'm replanting Florida here, so we lost all our trees apparently, and I need to plant them all. But no, I'm doing a large scale planting of trees, and I don't have pictures yet. They actually haven't arrived yet. Something got lost in the transport, so I don't know where they are, and no one else does. So hopefully they'll survive and make it, and we'll get them in the ground this week. But rest assured, I'll send you some pics when that happens.
So somebody literally lost 111 trees.
Yes, they're well, yeah.
Wow,
It
that's talent.
is talent.
All right, Shade Slayer. There are plans to get a rolling release suite for Devel. Any news on that? So the development releases of Ubuntu have kind of been rolling release for a while now. They do daily quality checks to make sure that it's not going to be broken, and we've got a lot of people who upgrade very early on and just stick with the development release throughout most of the cycle and then jump to the next one almost as soon as it opens. So if you want bleeding edge rolling release, that's an option for you right now. Just upgrade to Vivid and enjoy. I've heard some of the neat stuff that's going on in there, so it's probably worth doing.
Indeed, that's how I have run Ubuntu for some time, and it has gotten much easier. I think the only thing Shade Slayer that didn't come to fruition, shall we say, from the rolling release, uh, uh, the plans was the idea of being able to tick a box to say keep me on Devil at all times. I don't believe that ever came to fruition, so you still have to, quote unquote, upgrade at the end of each cycle and the start of the next. But otherwise, yeah, feel free to run the development release and feel pretty good about it. It's fun to live on the bleeding edge, and for the most part, you won't have any issues. So.
Right, Super Duper asks if there's any plans for an Ubuntu Snappy desktop. So there is talk about something like that. We're trying to figure out what exactly that would mean and how that would work. We sent out a survey to try and get feedback from different users, developers, and OEMs to figure out how this would work with their use cases and their workflows. Some stuff seems an easier fit on the desktop than others. Image-based updates like Snappy would be one of the ones that was a little more difficult because people are used to being able to apt-get whatever they need on their desktop. And a lot of the things that they are using apt to get are not really things that would make good click or necessarily snappy packages. So there's discussion going on. There's quite a bit of work before we can have a fully functional snappy desktop. And we'll just have to wait and see how that pans out. Now, that said, I can definitely see Snappy being used for things like little netbooks or something, or little like the Chrome box, the tiny little computers that people just use for certain specific tasks instead of a general purpose PC. I can definitely see it being used for that. And things like kiosks, anywhere that somebody would use Ubuntu desktop for a kiosk or a display, Snappy would definitely be a better choice there. Just Caracas. So the new Raspberry Pi, does it run Ubuntu Next /phone /what's it in the name? So it runs Snappy and Ubuntu Core, which is our very lightweight base for Ubuntu for cloud and for Internet of Things. Because it is ARM v7 and we've got all of the archives built for that, you should be able to install regular Ubuntu desktop or even the Unity 8 Ubuntu desktop on there. I don't know what work would be required to create an installable image with all of that for the new Raspberry Pi, but it should certainly be possible. The biggest reason we couldn't get it on the original Raspberry Pi was because the architecture that they used for their CPU was one generation older than what Ubuntu settled on supporting. So we weren't able to provide it for the original. We can provide it for the Raspberry Pi 2. So I would expect somebody's going to put together some desktop images for that not very long. In fact, somebody may already have it, and I just haven't found out about it. And in that case, if anyone here knows about it, feel free to post links in the IRC and share it around. All right.
Indeed. This is Tim on Ubuntu asks, let's talk about the Ubuntu phone. What can we expect from BQ?
Well, a phone. You can definitely expect that. In fact, I think um, this week is when the first ones are going to be handed out to our insiders who we've picked to get early access and give us some some early feedback on it before the main bulk of phones ships.
Yes,
So
you're right.
probably by this weekend or so, I would expect that you'll start seeing a lot of pictures and discussion and videos of the actual BQ phones in people's hands. So I'm looking forward to that as much as you are.
I was gonna
As far
say,
as features of Ubuntu, if you've used it on a Nexus 4, you pretty much know what's going to be there. I think the BQ phones are going to have some additional scopes that aren't in the Nexus 4 image, but those should also be available in the store once everything's released.
yeah, there could be a surprise or two, but for the most part,
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
right. Yeah,
Right.
I can't believe we forgot about that though in the opening, mentioning the Insiders event does happen this weekend. So there will be
Well,
people in the world with Ubuntu phones.
it's because all of our work basically stopped a week ago when we had to have everything ready to give to BQ.
Right, right, right.
Now we're just kind of cruising along, waiting for them to actually be in people's hands.
Indeed.
It's kind of like the actual Ubuntu release, where the 3 days before the actual release are our quiet period because it's too late for us to do anything else with it.
Usually in testing, we're going up to the wire, but yes, that last
Oh,
week,
that's true,
everybody
yeah.
else just kind
You've
of
got stuff to do. You're working up until the very last imagery spin.
right.
All right, Supadupa. What will happen to Ubuntu Software Center in Ubuntu 16.04? So in Unity 8, instead of a separate Software Center app, we have a store scope, which has the same functionality. It's just different architecture. It's built into the dash as a scope, which is what scopes are good for. They're good at finding things and getting you things. And that's exactly what you want a Software Center to be. So we have that on the phone right now. Once Unity 8 is the default on the desktop, that will be available there as well. It's much faster than the current Ubuntu Software Center. In my opinion, it looks nicer than the current Ubuntu Software Center. And I think everybody is going to be generally more happy with it that way. It works really well
Right.
and doesn't suffer from most of the problems. Now, a lot of the problems that Ubuntu Software Center had in terms of performance actually had to do with how it was trying to get data. So it was trying to get it from the archives and from different listings and trying to put that all together. And that was quite slow most of the time. With the new store, since it's only looking at click packages, and we've got a real efficient index for those, it can list and search them quite a bit faster than the old store can. And that will, again, be in Unity 8 whenever that becomes the default. Or you can try it out right now. You can get the Unity 8 session on your desktop, and you should be able to get that.
Yep, you can check it out. The thing that I like about the change is that it's integrated directly with the OS, so it's called almost like another scope, if you will. It's a core feature. So the store is right there. So the same way you'd search for an app, you can get a new app out of the store, which is really nice.
And actually, you can do it on the desktop right now too in Unity 7. You can search for apps to install in the dash, and more often than not, that's how I get new apps instead of the Software Center.
Right. That is a good point. Durantula asks, what other distros do you use? What are your thoughts on Arch? Personally, I only use Ubuntu at this point, although I have used other distros in the past. I mostly played around with Debian and Debian-based distros, including Ubuntu, but I have run Arch, and personally, I think it's a cool project. I would run it again if I had a particular reason or purpose to. It's kind of nice as a way to learn a little bit about Linux and to get a bit of ground-up education on something like Linux from scratch, rolling your own distro, that sort of thing. And so some of those exercises are really helpful. It's easier and in many ways nicer to run a fully fledged distribution like Ubuntu, where a lot of that plumbing is taken care of for you. But Arch is certainly a really nice way to roll your own, much nicer than doing it literally by hand. So.
Yeah, like Nick, I'm all on Ubuntu now. I've never used Arch, though I have used Debian and Fedora and CentOS in the past. And they're all great distros. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. If they work for you, then I fully encourage you to use them instead of Ubuntu. For me, it's easier to have everything the same distro just because I don't have to remember differences and nuances between one and the other. And Ubuntu works for me, and I can put it on my desktop, my server, and now my phone. So it's convenient for me to standardize on just the one thing. And I just don't have the time anymore to go distro hopping and try out other stuff. If I had the time, I probably would, but I've got so many other hobby projects to work on that half of them don't get done already.
Distro hopping, yes.
Those are the days, huh?
Those are the days. I think everyone goes through that, and it's good. It's a good exercise. It really is.
Yeah, it's an important growing stage for a Linux user. All right, Gadaleth asks, when will the Ubuntu phone porting guide be updated? So that is actively being worked on by David Calais, who's a legend in the Ubuntu community. He's been working closely with the phone platform developers on that, and it should be available soon. I know he was hoping to have it published before this weekend so that people could use it during the Global Jam. So hopefully within the next couple of days that'll go live.
Yep.
Just correct us, how does the BQ phone hold up to the Nexus 4? Is it worth the upgrade? So Nick, do you have a BQ phone for testing? Have you been able to compare them?
I do. I was just going to say I can hold them. I want to see how they hold up. It feels about the same weight, if that's what you're interested in. It's
How about spec-wise?
Spec-wise, I find it. I actually like some of the BQ design a bit better. So that speaking from aesthetics, I'm happier, I think, with the BQ design than the Nexus 4 design. Spec-wise, I think they're pretty similar. I could be wrong on that, so I don't actually know. But using them, I don't notice. There's not a noticeable difference between one and the other, right? So I'm not saying, oh, this is really slow, or oh, this feels so much quicker. They feel very similar. The screens one might be a little smaller or larger than the other, but I would say they're quite similar. So if I had to pick one, I would probably pick the BQ one just for aesthetics. So.
How is the camera quality on the BQ? Because I haven't been real happy with the Nexus 4's camera.
That's a good question. I don't tend to take a lot of pictures. I don't know. I don't know that I can answer that, and I don't know that I've taken like much video at all either. I know the Nexus 4 doing some of that stuff. I have done it with the Nexus 4, and it leaves a little to be desired. I don't think the BQ necessarily polishes that up, but I could be wrong. That's a really good question.
One really good thing about the BQ phone over the Nexus 4 is that it doesn't have back glass.
Yes.
I have replaced this once already because I shattered it, and it's already cracked again at the corner now. Whoever decided to put glass on the back of a phone needs to reevaluate their life choices.
That's why I have the giant.
Yeah, you've got the giant case that makes it like a small.
It's like 3 times larger than the phone is now. But that's the only way to protect it. So just fragile. So the BQ phone is nice in that way because it has like 2 fused layers, and the outer layer has like a plastic edge, which so if you drop it, it won't shatter on the corner like the Nexus, which I had happen once already as well. So
Yeah, that's a nice kind of industrial design feature that they built into that.
right.
All right, moving along. I'm going to take Ma's question here. Does Ubuntu collect personal information from our PCs? No, it does not. Super Dupa again. Oh, it's going to make me say this. Can we has more fat click packages? Not all apps are available on x86. So, Nick, you know more about fat packages than I do. Can you talk on that?
Yes, I most certainly can. The answer is yes. We can have more. We can have more fat click packages, and I'd love to see them. Basically, if you check out Unity 8 now on your desktop PC, it runs x86, and any compiled applications, of which there's an increasing number of them, of a lot of the cool stuff is compiled and could be compiled for x86, but many app authors only compile it for the phone or ARM-HF platforms. So that means when you go and look at this in the store on x86, when you're running it on your desktop in Unity 8, you don't see many of your favorite apps. So if you are an application author and you want to publish your app as a click package, you can find a little mini guide on my blog on theorangenotebook.com. Essentially, to answer the question, if you're interested in doing that, is you can bundle them, build one for x86 and build one for ARM-HF, and then combine them together. That's essentially what you end up doing. Now, built-in support for that is a bug. It's an open bug, and if you want to see support, I'll link it in the IRC channel so you guys can all go add the "this affects me" and raise the launchpad heat. I'm sure the Click guys will be very happy to see that swarm of activity on the bug, and hopefully we can get that solved. I'm really hoping for it to be solved sooner rather than later, but everything is in place. The store can handle it. You can make the package manually. It's just a matter of getting the tooling there to make that really automatically easy, so that you publish by default in that manner, and then as an application developer, you won't have to necessarily think about the platforms. You'll just be pushing to everything.
All right, Zyatron, how much, in your opinion, is Compiz responsible for the actual rise of GNU Linux and Android in current days? So I don't know how that would have helped Android, because they don't use Compiz. I think that the effects that Compiz provided really helped gain immediate interest in Linux. If people saw your wobbly windows or your spinning cube, they would immediately take interest in it. But I don't think that's what made people stick with it. Whenever I watch somebody who's actually been using Linux for any amount of time, those kinds of effects are generally turned off. So I don't think those kept people on, but they definitely brought people's eyeballs to Linux and made them consider trying it.
Let's see. Tim on Ubuntu asks, can we expect a collaboration with Cyanogen mod or something like that? Something like Ubuntu for Android Cyanogen mod. I think I'm a little confused by the question, actually. I guess he's asking something like Ubuntu for Android, but I mean, Android Cyanogen mod in that way would be very similar. So I'm not sure what he means by collaboration with Cyanogen mod. I don't know if that's a hardware or software thing.
I think maybe he's asking, would Cyanogen mod want to use Ubuntu as a desktop display when a Cyanogen mod phone is docked?
Ah.
I haven't heard anything about that. I don't know if there's any interest on their end from that. I know our focus right now is Ubuntu for Ubuntu, and all of our convergence work is going towards powering that. If they were interested in it, I'm sure the developers over at Cyanogen could produce, essentially what we produced for the Ubuntu on Android prototypes. But as far as I know, that hasn't been done, and there's no interest on that side for it. Right, Logcat, how will you ensure that updates are delivered promptly on Ubuntu Touch? So this is a subject I love talking about because I think it's really neat the way our platform architects put things together. So for an Ubuntu phone, you actually have multiple images. When you do Ubuntu device flash on a Nexus 4, for example, it's downloading two separate images. One's the hardware enablement image, and one's the actual OS image. And because we've separated those and the installer knows how to layer them properly, that means that the OEM, so BQ, can provide the device level image that's got all the drivers and everything that you need to power a BQ phone. And then we would provide the OS level image that's got all of the regular Ubuntu stuff and the default apps and scopes and that kind of thing. And what that means is that when we have an update to Ubuntu, we can put out an update to our image, and that can be installed on top of BQ's OEM image without conflicts or anything like that, to get you the latest update of Ubuntu without them having to go and do anything to deliver that to you. So our plan is to be able to provide OS image updates to any Ubuntu phone on the market at any time to keep them all up to date. And I think that's a huge, huge improvement over what you currently have with Android, where you have to wait for the OEM to provide that for you. All right. Taki, will Canonical make a game console like an Ubuntu Steam OS edition? That's an interesting idea. I don't think anybody's talking about that just yet.
I was gonna say, I think he's kind of answered his question in so much as we would be the software that potentially, Steam OS is running on has the Debian Ubuntu base, so we wouldn't make hardware. He's not yet. We've never delved into that realm. We focus on the software side of things. Not that we won't ever make hardware. So I don't know where that would leave us then.
Now you can get Steam on Ubuntu. We were one of the first Linux platforms that they supported. And I know some of our colleagues have got boxes set up with Ubuntu and Steam in big picture mode. So that's entirely possible. Somebody could make a respin that does this for you, but I don't think it's very hard to just install Steam yourself on a regular Ubuntu install. But yeah, I don't see us making hardware anytime soon. That's just not really the company that we are. It's not what we have the talent for. We're a software company, and that's what we focus on.
Nightmare, love the spelling, asks, are there any plans to implement a profile system for easy migration between devices? I'll let you answer this, Mike. This is kind of an interesting question.
Yeah, I don't know what the plans are right now. Some of it you can do already. So for apps, for example, when you install an app from the Click Store, you have to use your Ubuntu One login to connect to the Click Store, and so it'll keep track of what apps you've purchased or installed. So when you connect with another phone, you can have those available to it to automatically install and install apps you've purchased without having to purchase them again. So that can be done. We also provide something called the Ubuntu One database, which is a schema list database. It's available to app developers, and that provides background syncing automatically also. So if an app developer chooses to use that for storing their settings, then they can sync those between your different devices. And again, that uses your Ubuntu One login and Canonical servers to sync that information. So the potential's there. It's not implemented yet, I think, in the App Store to automatically reinstall your apps on a new device. And some apps are using U1DB and some apps aren't. It's kind of hit or miss on that end. But yeah, there's stuff there that can do this.
Akiva asks, I heard there is a new package type. We now have Debian packages, Click packages, and now something else. What is the reason for this new package? Presumably we're talking about Snappy packages here.
That would be my guess, yes.
Go ahead.
As far as I understand it, and I'm still a little bit confused on this, myself, so I may be wrong in this explanation. But snappy packages are basically just click packages. Um, Snappy itself deals with apps, so things like click package apps, but it also deals with OS images. So you can kind of think of Snappy as this um, umbrella tool that sits on top of System Image Update and Click and uses both of them interchangeably. So as far as packaging format, there's not a difference between a Snappy app and a Click app. The packaging format is basically the same. And those, in turn, are essentially just very restricted Debian packages. You can still use tools like dpackage to introspect those. So they're not really new package types. It's really more just different restrictions and limitations on existing package types.
Right. I would call. Well, I was gonna say, which way does it go? I would call Snappy packages sort of click enhanced packages. So we can make one of those things where all click packages are Snappy packages, but not all Snappy packages are click packages, or something like that.
But actually, they both use the same store. So we've got if you're using a Snappy Ubuntu core image right now, when you install a Snappy app, it's going to the same store as the phone goes to for phone apps. And the upload mechanism is the same, and the automatic review mechanism is the same. It's just looking for different things. So all of that infrastructure and everything is going to be common between those two, which is really nice.
Yanpass asks, currently Unity 8 apps on the desktop look like mobile apps. Will they be modified to look like classic desktop applications, and will they be able to recognize DPI? This is an excellent question. If you do check out the Unity 8 ISO, I'm not sure when it might be the default, but there is a flag that you can set to actually turn on windowing mode, which you can actually run on the phone as well. I think Michael Zanetti showed a demo of that running on device as well, which was interesting to me. But at any rate, when you do that, it does feel a lot more like a classic desktop, right? You have some window management, and the applications will run, in a larger size. If you've ever seen a good example of a nice converged application, you'll know that the application should be able to scale to your desktop, to your tablet, to your phone. So yes, there are tools in place in the SDK to understand and recognize sizes, and you can build your application accordingly. Of the classic desktop applications now, for instance, I know Terminal and File Manager, which of course are my big two applications, both do this well. So what exists on my phone for File Manager versus what exists on my desktop is different, and the desktop gives me a nicer, wider view, more desktop-y, if you will.
So just to tackle a couple of things in there, as far as the look of them, some of that can be determined by the app developer. So if you look at things like the dashboard app, not dashboard, Flashback, that Nikolish wrote, when you scale that to tablet or desktop window sizes, it'll change the layout to actually work better in that form factor. It's not just scaling the same interface. So that's available to app developers right now, and some of them are starting to take advantage of that. I like to use Flashback as a great example of this because Nikolish has put a lot of work into it, and he's been very creative in his use of the different layouts to make that work. The other side of that coin is the UI toolkit itself, which is currently really focused on mobile and touch devices. But I know that the API developers and the design team are working to translate that to desktop. So, for example, on a touch device, you can right swipe to do window switching. Well, obviously, we don't want it to be triggered that way on the desktop. We want to trigger it with Alt-Tab. So we've already got that figured out for the shell. Now we need to do the same thing for the UI toolkit. Instead of swiping up from the bottom to access something, what's natural for a desktop user to do to trigger the same action? So those discussions are going on. They're brainstorming it. In the next release or two, we'll probably see some major changes to the way the UI toolkit looks and works on the desktop. And then as far as recognizing DPI, this was something that was built into the UI toolkit from the very beginning. We use something called grid units for sizes, and those scale dynamically depending on not only the resolution and pixel density of your screen, but also the viewing distance of your screen. So you know that if you say, this button is 10 grid units wide, it's going to be an appropriate size for a button, whether it's on a phone or a PC or even a television. So high DPI support, different form factors and viewing distances are all baked right into the UI toolkit. So that's going to make things so much easier for app developers who want to target these different devices.
Right. So, like Michael said, a lot of that work and that design and that thought should make it make apps usable that were otherwise written with different target screen sizes in mind. Right. So I'm sure we've all experienced the running the tiny mobile app that someone designed on a desktop or a tablet and having it be all warped and stretched out and that sort of thing. And that's not something that you'll see even for applications that didn't necessarily take in mind a different design paradigm for a desktop. Okay. So Nightmare asks, when will work begin on the tablet to get it up to RTM quality?
I know focus on tablet started to pick up about midsummer last year. And I'm sure once we have a hardware partner that wants to ship one, things will kick into high gear just like they did with the phone when we got those partners on. But it's been focused just like the desktop. We're starting to try and bring those up to the same level of quality and get ready for the full convergence story to be available and stable to users.
Right. Talkie asks, when or will Ubuntu come with Pac-Man?
If you mean the package manager, probably never. If you mean the game, maybe somebody will create an Ubuntu Touch version of Pac-Man that you can run on a phone or tablet, which would be rather fun. I'm not sure how you would do the controls, but there's some possibilities there.
Yes, I was thinking the game, but he probably means the package manager. Someone make a Pac-Man game for Ubuntu Touch, though. I would definitely get into
You could
that.
use the accelerometers to detect phone rotation. You got to just sit there turning your phone to...
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of ideas about controlling it. Yeah. Interesting.
Akiva asks, is there any word on a North American phone? No, there's no word on that yet. I am looking forward to that every bit as much as you are. Trust me, I want that to happen. And as soon as I know something and can talk about it, I will be posting it everywhere. I'll be so excited.
Let's see. Talkie asks, are you Illuminati? If we were, I don't think we could answer you. So.
Yeah, but please just stay put and pay no attention to the men breaking down your door right now.
Yes. I'll go with that one.
Asks, will Flash be deprecated from Ubuntu? If yes, how will you do Ubuntu on Air? I'm not sure. Do we actually need Flash for Ubuntu on Air anymore?
I don't have Flash on this machine, although I'm in the Hangout, to be fair. But I believe YouTube
I don't know if the
announced...
Hangout uses Flash. And I think you can do HTML5 video from YouTube to get the live stream.
Yes, I was going to say, I believe YouTube now announced recently that everything was HTML5 enabled, finally.
Yeah.
So you don't need Flash at all for YouTube, and the Hangout's the same way. It's a HTML web plugin.
Still be able to do Flash on Chrome. They've built in their own Flash player into that. But
Sure.
yeah, the generic Flash player from Adobe for Linux desktops has been deprecated. And that's probably a fantastic thing all around. Get rid of Flash.
Daniel B. asks, will it be possible to install third-party click files on Ubuntu Touch without going to the command line? aka like on Android, where it's possible to activate the option to allow installation from third-party sources. So presumably, yeah, we could have a have a little GUI that would do the same thing, right? You could open it in a file manager and send it to the GUI, I guess.
Yeah, and I know the original plan was to be able to support multiple store backends. So in addition to the Ubuntu store, you might be able to add others. As it is, you can currently sideload click packages on a phone going through the command line. So you can use package con to install those. I do that all the time for stuff that I'm testing or developing that's not in the store yet.
Nightmare asks, are there any plans for the document viewer to support EPUB?
I don't think there's supports for the document viewer to support EPUB because we already have Beru in the store, BERU, that's an EPUB reader.
Right.
So I don't think there's any plans to add that to the document viewer itself. I don't think the document viewer UI is going to really be the best one to read books on. Beru's designed around reading books instead of very short documents. So I think that would be a better bet all around.
I agree. Elsie asks, any schedule for a Mizy phone?
No actual specific dates yet. Sometime after the BQ launch. I would hope sometime in the spring, no later than that. But they haven't announced yet when they're going to be ready to ship those, so we don't know.
Just Caracas asks, how is the battery life on the BQ phone? I know battery life is something that the QA team has spent some time looking at and working on for a while. I'm not sure exactly what the benchmark is now for time to drain. You can have now there's lots of interesting ways to quantify that. What you're doing while draining the battery. Do you just leave the display on and at how high of brightness level, and are you playing video? Are you browsing the web? What are you doing? That said, for typical day-to-day use, the battery lasts the day. So my typical use case is having my phone and charging it at night, and that would be my expectation for what you would end up doing with the battery and the BQ phone. Let's see.
Akiva is asking, will we have to bundle a Python interpreter for every app that uses Python, or will we eventually have a shared interpreter any app can use? So to give a little context on this, for Click apps, we have a base system defined by our framework. And anything that's not part of that framework, you have to ship in your Click package. And the Python interpreter is not part of that framework. So we've had some people who are writing apps with Python using one of the Qt bindings for it. And yes, they are having to ship a Python interpreter with their app. And I think it's actually just shipped as a library that they can call from within their Qt app. But yeah, that is currently the case. I don't know if there's any plans to change that. You would need to talk to the platform and SDK developers to find out about that. Now this is important for apps that are running under confinement. On a regular desktop, if you're installing apps that are not confined, then they would be able to call out to the Python interpreter just like any other app would.
We've got 10 minutes left, Mike.
Yeah.
Let's try and pick it up.
Nicole, can you advertise the events on Ubuntu On Air further ahead of time? I always seem to find out an hour before they happen. So there is an Ubuntu On Air calendar. It's on the website that Jose maintains that should have all the upcoming events that he knows about. We can probably be better about making sure that we get him updates if we're changing anything or adding anything. Right. And of course, you can follow Ubuntu On Air on YouTube and Twitter. Get that plug in early to find out more about events that are coming up. This one happens every week at the same day and same time, so you can reliably just set that on your calendar if you want. And then we also have the Ubuntu the Ubuntu Engineering Live broadcast that happens every other Wednesday at 1400 UTC. And the next one of those is tomorrow. So this is your heads up for that one. You've got plenty of notice.
Nice. Talkie asks, will Ubuntu One cloud storage return now that the phone is coming? The answer to that is right. Go ahead.
Yeah, so cloud storage was expensive. We were losing quite a bit of money on that. And basically everybody who's doing cloud storage right now is losing a lot of money on that. It wasn't where we wanted to throw money at anymore, which is why we shut it down. There is a Dropbox client already for the phone, which I use all the time and is very nice. And we hope to get more of the other cloud storage providers providing native apps for our phone and our desktop to provide you the same functionality without us having to maintain that ourselves. Now that said, things like Ubuntu One database and the Ubuntu One single sign-on are still active and supported. And those are part of the Ubuntu platform that we're committed to supporting long term.
Right.
Right. Ubuntu user asks, is there any update regarding Meizu and Ubuntu on phones? I think we covered that earlier. We are all just waiting for Meizu to set a target date for their release.
Dakura asks, will we ever be able to buy Landscape without a full support contract?
So you can currently use a trial version of Landscape for up to 10 hosts. I don't have a link handy for that, but if you go to probably #ubuntu-server, you can get some information on that. Or ping George Castro, J Castro on Freenode, and he can find you the information for that. But yes, you can currently use it for up to 10 hosts for free.
Yep.
All right, Logcat7, do you plan to support devices that aren't officially intended to run Ubuntu Touch, like Nexus devices, HTLG, etc., or will that just be left to the community? We officially support some of the Nexus devices already. For everything else, yes, we want to help the community as far as we can to maintain those images, but we don't plan on building and developing those images ourselves. So, for example, there's currently a Nexus 5 image that's very actively maintained by members of the community. So it's certainly possible. The new porting guide that's coming out is going to help with that, and we help to increase the availability of Ubuntu across existing phones in the near future. All right, how many more do we have? Oh wow, we've got a lot.
Yes.
We're not going to get to all of these.
I think we're on, will Snappy assist Ubuntu on the desktop, getting up-to-date end-user programs, VLC, etc.?
I think Click will help that.
Right.
I don't think we necessarily need all of Snappy on the desktop to do it. How full is the Unity 8 UI? Will I finally be able to set a GIF or video as a wallpaper? Not currently. I don't know how much customization is planned for that. I know we plan on not offering some for OEMs and carriers to be able to customize the colors and stuff a little bit, but for the most part, we really want it to be the same across devices. If you want to help drive that, though, you can help contribute to the Unity 8 project. It's on Launchpad. It's really easy to build, and most of the interface is developed in QML, just like our apps are, and it's really easy to hack on. So if you want to help drive that and maybe introduce some features that weren't currently on the table, you can go talk to those guys about it. All right, skipping down to just Caracas. From what date can we order the BQ phone? So I think the BQ phones will go on sale online the second week of February, maybe the 3rd. Yeah, maybe starting like the 16th or so is the plan for those to go on sale. I don't remember the exact dates. It was announced a few weeks ago when that would happen, but it's going to be sometime this month. They're going to go on sale online.
Eisentop asks, when can we expect an x86 tablet image?
I don't know. I know there was somebody trying to kickstart one a while back. Um, yeah, I don't know when we'll expect to see that. I don't know what if x86 tablet images are going to be generic like an x86 PC, or if we're going to have to create custom images like we do for ARM tablets. It's an interesting question, and I don't know the answer to it.
Taki asks, is Canonical planning on releasing its custom graphical backend? I'm not sure what he means by that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by that either, Taki. Can you clarify? If you're talking about Mir, which is the display server that we wrote for Ubuntu phones, and it's going to eventually be on the desktop, that was released as open source right from the beginning. It's on Launchpad. It's some of it's under the GPL version 3, some of it's under the LGPL version 3, but it's all open source from the beginning.
Ubuntu user asks, do you know if BQ will offer international shipping for the Ubuntu phone?
I don't know. I know their current market is Europe and I think maybe parts of South America. If you want it shipped to North America, I don't know if that's something they're going to offer. So you need to have European friends. Everybody needs European friends. All right, Nightmare asks, in the same way we have desktop porn, will users be able to modify the way Ubuntu Touch looks to create Ubuntu Touch porn? I don't know to what extent they'll be able to do that. I love posting whenever I just change the wallpaper on my welcome screen. That's mine. I guess you can call that soft core desktop porn.
That's about as hardcore as I get as well.
Yeah.
Alcy asks, how do Snappy, Docker, Juju, Click packages, dev packages, and apt work together? What is the big plan? I feel confused. That's a lot to answer in a minute. But.
Yeah, so I'm going to try. You can use Snappy either inside of Docker or outside of Docker. So one of the problems that I've heard with Docker is that you get this image that never gets updated. So you've got an OS inside this Docker container that never gets updated. And you can't just go in and update it because whatever the image creator has done might conflict with any normal upgrade process. So what Snappy does inside of a Docker container is it'll let you get into the container, run Snappy update, and update both the apps and the OS independently of the person who actually created the initial image for you. So that's how it'll work inside of Docker. Outside of Docker, you can actually use Docker as a framework to install apps into, and Snappy will manage that. I'm not clear on the details of that. I'm not a Docker user, and we are out of time now, so that's the very short answer. Go to, what is our channel? Is it #Snappy or #Ubuntu Snappy on Freenode?
I believe it's #Ubuntu Snappy. Yep, I will check.
Okay. Go to those channels. People who know far more about Snappy and Docker will be able to provide you a better answer for that.
It's just #Snappy. Okay, brilliant.
All right. Red Llama 42 asks opinions on GL Next, and I have never heard of that.
I believe that's the next version of OpenGL. In general, OpenGL is awesome. I first learned it way back in the day with Glut and FreeGlut, for any geeks who might know what that is. But I got to make the teapot. Cool stuff.
If it's the next version of OpenGL, then I'm just going to assume it's going to be better, faster, stronger, harder.
That's my assumption as well. In which case, right. Yes.
And it looks like we actually got through all of those questions, Nick. And only in over time, too. That's not too bad.
Good stuff.
All right. Once again, we do these every week, same time, same day. So Tuesdays at 1600 UTC. You can rewatch this video or any other video recorded from Ubuntu On Air on our YouTube channel, YouTube/Ubuntu On Air. And you can follow us on Twitter at Ubuntu On Air to get announcements about upcoming videos. Thank you, everybody, for your questions. And we will see you guys next week. Take care.
Hey, guys.